So Amari Cooper is here. There are a lot of comparisons to the Odell Beckham Jr. trade, which happened exactly 3 years ago on March 12th. The news came out on March 12th, 2019, and became official on the 13th. But we're 3 years removed from that. Odell Beckham Jr. had been in the league 5 years and was 26 years old when he became a Cleveland Brown. Amari Cooper has been in the league 6 years and is 27 years old as he becomes a Cleveland Brown. They are kind of different styles of receivers. I do want to get into those comparisons a little bit. Off the top, the price tag here is almost irrelevant, which immediately makes it different than the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Just to get the specifics of this, Mary Kay, the Browns basically made this deal. The Cowboys had announced they were going to dump him. So the Browns made this deal so they were in control of the situation, right? Rather than Amari getting to free agency and then he would be in control of things. So the price is a fifth rounder. It's basically nothing compared to Jabril Peppers and a first rounder for Odell. But why is this a trade? Why didn't it play out a different way?
Well, they couldn't wait because the Miami Dolphins would have snatched him up on the open market. There were other teams that were interested. They could absolutely not do that, especially because he is from Miami. And I think he really would have wanted to play there. And there probably were other teams that would have made a very compelling case. And who knows what happens on the open market. You start, you get into a bidding war and all those kinds of things. And also the Browns would have had to, deal with the whole Baker Mayfield issue and try to sell him on the notion that Baker's going to be better and this passing game is going to be up to 2022 standards and all those kinds of things. A trade eliminates all of that. They got out in front of it. They were aggressive, but again, now they need to follow up and make everything right. Okay.
So it's a fifth round pick, whatever. I mean, it just made sure that they got him. It's $20 million for this year, and we can get into a little more of the contract stuff. On cap hit, that's the sixth biggest cap hit for a receiver in the 2022 season. So that is the real capital that you're expending here, right? You're expending $20 million. Ashley, is Amari Cooper worth $20 million to the Browns?
I think so. And, Doug, when I read your column, for example, like the one thing, and I know we'll get into the differences between him and Odell, but like the thing that I like about him in this situation, and people are like, oh, Odell wasn't happy to be traded here. This is a guy who's been traded before in the middle of a season, as a matter of fact. So I think, like you pointed out, he knows it's just a business. And I think looking at he's had like 5 1,000-yard seasons. He's done that 3 times in the last 4 years. He's so good at being a deep threat, which I know Scott wrote about. So I just think he solves a lot of their problems. He solves their biggest problems with that receiver room. So like you're saying, you don't have to give up, that first round draft pick or that second round, third round draft pick to get him. But you are expending what you are giving up is that cap space and that sort of leverage. So I think overall what we have seen from him so far, it's a great pickup, and that is worth it to me.
Do you have any questions about it being, quote, worth it, Scott, for the Browns to do this for the fifth round pick and the $20 million?
No, it's totally worth it. And this was the way to do it. And like we've talked so much on the podcast, how do you get a big name wide receiver to come here in free agency when you have a quarterback issue, no matter how you want to label that issue, injury or production, consistency, all that kind of stuff plays into it. And an offense that, as we've said, isn't really built around throwing a ton of passes to wide receivers. Well, you go and you trade for that guy, and he doesn't really have a say in it. Here's your new team, Amari. Get used to it. It's not maybe what you're used to. It's not the Raiders. I mean, we went from the Raiders to the Cowboys. It was basically the same thing. They ran the same kind of style of offense. They had 3 receivers on the field, a ton. Now it's like it's a different world, and it could work out great for him. He will obviously be one of the receivers who's on the field the most, and he's going to see a ton of targets. He likely will get 100 targets with the Browns, but he's not going to be in that the same kind of offense. They're going to ask him to be probably more efficient than he's been in the past. And again, that could work out just from the way they use him in the offense. And you're looking at a different defensive setup, when you got 2 and 3 tight ends on the field, as opposed to when you have 3 wide receivers. So that could all work out. But I think getting him this way and giving up that mid-round pick, yes, worth it, even with that price tag, because there's no guaranteed money left. And if things don't work out, they're not they're not eating up a lot of that. They're not eating up any of that contract in a trade or cutting him at some point. And you still have the option with him being under contract for a few years now of flipping him for something else again, if it isn't the right fit.
So I want to get some context before we get into some more Brown specifics, just about how good Amari Cooper is. Again, someone referenced how many times he's been in the Pro Bowl. He has more than 7,000 yards receiving in his 7 years. I did a quick shorthand of how many NFL receivers would I definitely take ahead of Amari Cooper, like for sure. Like if you said, hey, Browns, take anybody. So you're going through Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuels and guys like that. I got 10 for sure. And then I got to like, well, then I think Amari Cooper at his best is as good as anybody in the next group.
Yeah, he is a legit number one receiver. The whole thing that I keep coming back to, and we are going to have to spend a little time on this, is the quarterback piece. I mean, you have to have somebody really good getting you the football. He has played with Derek Carr and he has played with Dak Prescott. Those are really, really good quarterbacks. Now, the 1 year that he did have 92 catches and 1,114 yards, which was 11th and 14th respectively in 2020. He did not have Dak Prescott most of that year. So, when I looked at that, I thought, okay, he's so good that he can pretty much excel almost with anyone in the right scheme and given enough opportunities. But it's going to be a lot easier on him and the Cleveland Browns if he has an elite quarterback or elite level quarterback play coming on the other end. So they have to continue to push the envelope in that regard.
Look, healthy Baker Mayfield is good at throwing deep passes. So if the Browns get healthy Baker Mayfield in this offense again in 2022, I think that's great. Amari Cooper really excels at catching passes deep downfield. So I think that makes him extra valuable to this team because they haven't had anybody. Well, they didn't have anybody last season, and then for really the second half of the season before that was consistently doing that. They really spread it around in 2020. DPJ kind of took some of that role on, but clearly Amari Cooper is a better option there and trying to get deep and spreading the defense. So yeah, Amari Cooper is good.